Hello YouTube, this is BUB'S Comics coming at you with some comics I've picked up here recently and some convention pickups and some books I'm super proud of and some books I picked up anyway. So we'll start off with some convention haul. These are three of the best things I picked up at the convention. Well, we'll make it four. We're going to start off with Werewolf by Night by Greg Land. I know Greg Land is something of a divisive figure in comics. Some people think that his stuff is very derivative and downright plagiaristic, and to the point of that they feel like he traces stuff or whatever. For me, Greg Land is one of my favorite artists. I enjoy his work, and honestly, I don't care where it comes from. That's just how it is. I just absolutely think that when it comes to a finished product, I think it's great. A lot of people, there's a lot of videos on YouTube. You can look all that stuff up, what the controversies about Greg Land are. I don't care. I met the guy. He was a super nice guy. His artwork was beautiful. I was sitting there. He was doing a sketch while I was standing there, not for me, and it looked fantastic, and he wasn't tracing nothing. This guy's got talent, whether he uses it or not, I don't care. As long as I get a book that looks like this, I love it. One of my favorite things about this book is that if you're a Werewolf by Night fan, you know that this is basically how he looks in the early comics. Now later in the 80s and even in the 90s, they start drawing him really crazy and more like a wolf and less like a wolf man. He's more man than wolf generally. He's just a little furry and got claws and teeth and stuff like that. He looks like this. And he's in his classic green pants. And I passed on getting a book like this that was already signed. And instead I bought a raw book that had not been signed, and I had him sign it. And the reason was that the other book that I was going to buy was on eBay and it was pre-signed. It was only like 13 bucks. And this book I think I paid like $8 or $9 for to get, and it said it had Greg Land written across there. It was signed, but it was in black ink and you could barely see it. And I was like, man, if I get this book signed, I want it to pop. And I love those metallic pens. So I hand him the book and he's like, oh yeah, I love this book. And we talk about how much we love Werewolf by Night, and he's a big Werewolf by Night fan. And then he pulls out his black marker and he's going to sign it right in the same crotch area that the last one was signed. I said, no. I said, don't do that. And I told him, I almost bought a book that would have looked just like that. I said, you couldn't read the signature. I said, you drew black. You wrote black on green and brown. You can't read that. He said, how about silver? I said, do it. So he put it in silver. I think it really pops, as you can see in the video. It says Greg Land. Super awesome. Super nice guy. Sticking with Greg Land for a second, I'll show this one. So I did not have this book. I have every volumized copy of Wolverine from miniseries to death, which is the last true titled Wolverine book, unless you count X-23, and I don't. So here is Wolverine number 55, I think volume 3 if I'm not mistaken. And it's done in an EC tradition. It's done, and it's a classic cover swipe of a classic horror cover that has the lady's head severed off with a hatchet. But in this case, it's Sabretooth's head, and he's got it cut off with his claws, and there's the body on the ground. So it's a very suggestive, it's a famous pre-code horror book. If you get a chance, look that up. But pretty cool book. This copy, I paid about what it's worth. But the difference is that I got it signed by Greg Land, and even though I had already got him to sign, I think he had 3 signatures you could get for free, and then one you had to pay for, and then every one after that you had to pay for. So he had signed 3 for me for free, but I was a big fan and I had a lot of books. And he signed 2 more that I paid for, but then I saw this book for sale, and I think they wanted like 30 or something. They wanted 30 bucks for it. I felt like that was a little overpriced. Felt like that was a little overpriced. So I offered him 20. He took it. I had to, make my case a little bit, but he took it for 20. And then I went over and got it signed by Greg Land for free. So here's my signed copy of Wolverine 55. I did not have this variant before, so I was glad to pick it up at the con and get it signed by him for 20 bucks. There you go. Another signature. We're keeping these SIGs rolling, man. I guess we know the video title will have something like that in there. This book I'm super happy about. The all-new Flash TV special, #1. So I met John Wesley Shipp. He's the guy who played Flash in the 90s. And I think, well, I know that he's also in the new Flash TV show on the CW. And he's actually making a reappearance as the 1990s Flash in original costume with original theme music playing in the background for the Elseworlds crossover that they're going to do on that show. If you're into it, awesome. If you're not, you don't care. We'll talk about the comics some more. So this book, he signed it, J. Wesley Shipp. He went to high school in Louisville, so I think he'll be at these cons a little more often maybe. He's definitely coming around now, and I think it's the second time he's been to Louisville that I'm aware of in recent years. So very happy about that. This is the only photo cover that he did for a comic book. Now, I've been trying to corroborate this, but according to John Wesley Shipp, this book is only the second photo cover that DC Comics ever made. And the first one was a photo cover done for the Batman 66 show with Adam West. Now, I can't find that book. So if any of you know, please put in the comments below what that book is. That's the trivia question of the week. What is the first photo cover done by DC Comics? Now, John Wesley Shipp says this is the second, and the first one was a Batman 66 book, but I can't find that book anywhere. I can't find any reference to that book, and if you search first DC photo cover, you're not going to get anything that's usable. So good luck with that. But any of you old timers out there might know. Any of you new timers out there that can use the interwebs better than me, go for that too. And if you're just like me, you're just going to take the word of John Wesley Shipp. This is the second one ever done. So pretty cool book. It's kind of done in the style like there's going to be more than one, but it turns out there's only one. The first story in here does not feature a John Wesley Shipp rendering, if you will, of the Flash. It's just kind of like a generic blonde guy. But in the second story, it says 2 stories featuring him. The second story is drawn after John Wesley Shipp and looks just like him as best as they could do. Pretty cool book. I loved that show as a kid. He signed the front. I told him about the channel and all that. And so I wanted him to put my real name on it. And he said, well, it's a collectible item. It looks pretty cool. He said, I won't put your real name on the cover so that you can still show it off on your channel, but I'll put your name on the inside. So he actually personalized it and signed it again on the interior of the book. Super, super cool guy. Side story, he likes the new Flash. Obviously, he's on that show, so he would. But he did not care for the Ezra Miller version of the Flash in Justice League. He thought that the writers of that did not understand Barry Allen at all and that they did a terrible job. He doesn't fault Ezra Miller. He thinks Ezra Miller was a fine kid, but he thinks that they did a disservice to Barry Allen Flash and that they should have consulted, he said, with people like me, which I know he just means like comic book readers and fans who love Barry Allen as the Flash. He said it wouldn't have taken long and they would have known that they were doing the wrong thing with that character. So I thought that was pretty cool of him to share a little bit. And this was the one guy that I talked to. I was really eager to meet him. It was the one guy that I talked to that I was that guy at the con who holds up the line. Now, I've been behind that guy that holds up the line, and I'm telling you, I would take like $3 books and paper cut that guy to death. So I know that it's not good. Like I hate it when somebody monopolizes the time. But usually I hate it more when they're just blabbering and talking. And like the artist or whatever is doing a sketch and then the guy just keeps talking and he's talking crazy. I wasn't talking crazy. I was talking with John Wesley Shipp and we were having an actual conversation that was going both ways. And most of the time I was listening to what he had to say. So the fact that the line got held up was only because me and John Wesley Shipp hit it off. So suck it, people waiting online. Next we got Kevin Conroy. And he signed Kevin Conroy, Batman, which I thought was pretty cool. Now, the placement of the signature I'm not real happy with. Had I had it to do it again, I would have asked him, please don't draw on Batman. I guess I didn't expect his signature to be so over the top. I mean, his name's Kevin Conroy, and he still wrote Kevin Conroy, Batman, which is cool. I like that he put Batman. But look at how much space that took up. That's huge. So anyway, still probably going to get it slabbed. looking forward to that. It's a pretty cool book. It's I don't know how rare necessarily it is, but it was I think a Loot Crate exclusive or a Legion of Collectors exclusive, whatever that is. And it's Batman Adventures #1. Of course, Kevin Conroy was the voice of Batman in the Batman the Animated Series, and also in of which this is a classic pose of the opening credits, as well as the Arkham Knight series of video games, and lots of made for DVD type movies and things of that starring Batman, and just about he's the voice of Batman. And if you ask most people who's their favorite Batman, it's funny because Kevin Conroy often makes the list of favorite Batmans, even though he's never done a physical appearance of Batman. So there you go. Let's see what else we got. We got this one. Bob McLeod signed Spider-Man #33. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm not a big Spider-Man fan, so I love it when both of them are fighting and the Punisher says, there's one good Spider-Man and one bad Spider-Man, and Castle's going to do them both just to be sure. Yeah, riddle those spiders with bullets. I think that's pretty cool. So that was cool. Also, Bob McLeod is the one who did a sketch for me at this con, so super excited about that. I'll show that off another time. Here is Amazing Spider-Man #374, and it says 2 BUB'S Comics by Bagley. So Mark Bagley was there, so I thought that was cool. He signed that for me. And then the last one I'll show you today is Mike Grell signed this Ian Fleming's 007 Permission to Die. He said that he had been contacted by the director of James Bond movies, and he said that Permission to Die was the best movie he ever read. So, the best James Bond movie he ever read. So, there's a Mike Grell. He wrote it and illustrated it, and he signed #1 for me and told me a couple of stories, so I really appreciated that. And his signature was really pretty. That silver pen that they use for these signatures just pops against that black. You almost can't beat it. Well, So here's a winner. We'll switch into some modern books. We'll try and wrap it up soon. And here is the Lone Ranger #2. Another John Cassidy cover, looking pretty cool. These stories are good. I've got, I think, every volumized Lone Ranger from Dynamite so far. I've collected all the runs. So I'm in the new run now, and this is, I think, volume 3, and this is #2. And #1 was pretty good. #2 was pretty good. So I'm going to give this a thumbs up. I highly recommend the Lone Ranger. You can't beat it unless you try real hard. So, but don't do that. So, of course, if we've got a winner, we got to have a stinker. I don't know. I'm close on this one. Return of Wolverine. So here's what happened. I have all the volumized Wolverines. I've mentioned that about every video if I can. But here's Return of Wolverine. I'm about to check out on this book. I hate to say it. A couple of things going on here. One is that I don't like the supporting cast of X-Men. I think that they're the new modern version of the X-Men, and they all pretty much suck. I don't know what Iceman's supposed to be. He's a Fruit Loop. I don't know what Storm's supposed to be. All of them, they've all lost. I think they're doing a decent job with Nightcrawler and with Kitty Pryde. But Storm, Jean Grey, and Iceman are completely written out of character, it seems, these days. It's like they all died or had amnesia and got brought back, and they don't know who they are, so they just act like whoever they are today. It's all really weird. It's hard as an old reader and collector to get into these new versions of the same character who just pretend like they never had a history and they're all just modern kids or something. I don't know. It's terrible. And the writing on this book is pretty bad. The art is atrocious as well. And to me, if you were going to bring Wolverine back from the dead to put him in this book, and the new Hot Claws is stupid too, if you're going to bring Wolverine back to put him in this book, you should have just left him in the ground or encased in adamantium on a Stonehenge, whatever the hell he was. So this book is a stinker. I don't recommend it to anyone. Buy it for the variants if you want, and that's about it. And so, I don't want to be a downer on the last book, so we'll leave you with a cool other book. And here's one. Here is a run I completed. So there is Man of Steel number 6. So this is John Byrne's, Superman magnum opus. So pretty good. Haven't read it yet. So by all accounts, it's good. But I know that they changed the origin of Superman. They kind of rewrite a lot of it and write out a lot of stuff like Superboy and Supergirl and all that kind of get written out in this retelling. But that's fine. I never really cared for those anyway. So I'm looking forward to this. And now that I have number 6, run completed. Woohoo! And I'll start to reading it. And of course, I always like to leave you with some pretty ladies. So here is a Greg Land signed Tomb Raider number 40. Which I took over there to get signed. So pretty cool. Greg Land knows how to draw the ladies, and it's looking good. So thank you all, and when you get done watching this video and other videos like it, if you like the video, hit subscribe. If you don't like the video, thumb it down. And then I'll comb through it and shake my head and cry all night and get hot flashes and just wondering, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Well, I don't know what I did wrong. Probably nothing. You just didn't like it. So thumb it down. If you like it, thumb it up. And go ahead and read a comic. Thanks. Bye.